Hi, this is Chris with Top Down Crypto, where I take a look at the macro factors that affect the crypto markets. Let's get right into the top 3 things in my notebook. Number 1, Asia. Number 2, narrowing. And number 3, buyers. All right, first off, let's get into Asia. Now, China, the Friday before last, cut rates. Okay, what that's telling me is they're trying to add liquidity to the system. The reason they're trying to do that is because China's stock market peaked in February. Okay, it's kind of made it's consolidated a bit, but it's also making a series of lower highs. Now, cutting rates adds liquidity, which on the surface looks good for the crypto market because there's nothing crypto does better than sop up that excess liquidity. But it seems that they're cutting rates probably because liquidity in the system is decelerating. Okay, so usually when a central bank cuts rates, they don't just do it once. One time doesn't fix it. Usually it's a series of cuts and a sharper decline that coincides with that. The second thing out of Asia is Japan. So Japan peaked in February also, and over the last month, Japan's down 4.5%. Okay, over the last month, Indonesia down 9.4%. The reason this is important because if a crypto bull market, a sustained crypto bull market is to happen, is to appear in the second half of 2021, you're going to have to get participation from these large Asian economies, China, Japan, Indonesia, South Korea, Singapore, making lower highs, Hong Kong making lower highs. So that's something to keep an eye on as we move forward. Number 2 is narrowing. Okay, what I mean is narrowing performance. Okay, so let's take a look at small caps versus large caps in the US. Okay, so small caps, this is IWM, ETF for the Russell 2000 index versus the S&P 500. Okay, so small caps, large caps. So over the last month, the Russell is down 6.5% versus the S&P 500, which is up 2.3%. Okay. Now, what does that mean? What that means to me is investors are selling more speculative bets, small speculative bets, rotating into larger, less speculative, more safety. Okay, that's what they're doing. They're seeking safety. Okay, so they're not as bullish as they were. Okay, now let's take a look at the XLK over the same time period. XLK, this is large cap tech right here. Probably the safest thing that everyone knows, right? Everyone owns the XLK. XLK is plus 5.8% over the last month. So what that tells me is investors are rotating out of speculative small cap bets into safer plays, safer, more known plays. Okay, now let's try to put this all together, this narrowing concept here. So right here, this will be November. And right here is July 18th when this is being filmed. Okay, so basically at the first week of November, that's when everything started to rip. Asia, small caps, crypto. You know, Bitcoin probably started like maybe October, but it really started to move in November. Okay, that's when you had that, what you would call the global synchronized recovery. The markets are kind of coming out of that COVID shock, and they're really getting bullish now. Inflation is accelerating, growth is accelerating. Okay, so basically from November to about February, everything ripped. Literally everything. There's no way you couldn't make money. Okay, but what happened in February was, what did I say earlier? China peaked, started to slow. Japan peaked. All right, now let's go to March. What happened in March? Small caps peaked. All right, let's go to April. Everyone knows what happened in April, right? Bitcoin peaked. Crypto peaked. All right, now let's go to May. What happened in May? Well, May was when most of the other commodities peaked. Commodities like copper, corn. Okay, Bitcoin trades most like a commodity. Okay, these are pure, highly speculative inflation bets. Okay, these all peaked April, May. Uranium, one of my favorite longs. Okay, in my opinion, it's got a long-term runway. You saw a lot of volume. Uranium peaked in June. Okay, so you have all these things that are getting sold, and the only thing that you've got left up here is you got two things. You got the XLK, large cap tech, and you got oil. Okay. Now, what does that mean? Okay, what are these data points telling us? Well, I was talking to my neighbor the other day, and I was kind of explaining this process of narrowing. And he interrupted me. He goes, so you think that Bitcoin and all these other things and small caps, you think that they're going to correct, right? That they're going to go join their buddies up here that are still ripping. And I thought, no. However, that's perfectly natural to think that, because that's what we as humans anchor on. Okay, we want the green and up and to the right. That's what we want, so we'll anchor on that. And we'll concoct a narrative where these are all going to correct and join their buddies over here. Now, the reality is a little bit different. In my experience, the narrowing, China, Japan, Indonesia, Singapore, small caps, Bitcoin, corn, copper, uranium, materials companies. In my experience, these will eventually break. Narrowing is usually a sign of the topping process. Remember, these things are being sold to seek safety. That's what they're seeking. What does that mean? That means investors are less bullish. Okay, that means they're less bullish. Okay, so that's just one of the things I wanted to explain here. Also, another thing is if you get volatility in these, remember, because now everybody's now forced from this into this. So if you get volatility in this, guess what? Volatility is going to hit all these other things too. Now, are they going to get affected like these, which are at a higher level? I don't know. Who knows? But volatility in the broader market will trickle down into crypto. It always does. Okay, and then let's see, the last thing is buyers. Buyers, where are the buyers at? Okay, we're at 31K. We hit 31K this week. And what happened when we hit 31? What happened when we hit 31K? Nothing. We're 31K and some change right now. Nothing happened. Okay, so that tells me buyers are lower. Buyers are lower. Okay, that's what that's telling me. You know, if I had to look, well, where are we going to find buyers? Okay, well, there's a couple things that can happen. Okay, a couple different scenarios that would allow us to transition from this, bearish state to a more bullish state. First one would be, this is just like a piece of the Bitcoin chart here. So we had our break at 42 and now we're kind of petering along. Okay, if this were to extend, a week, months, then you can get the buyers over time in volume, because what needs to happen is volume needs to kick in. Right now, nobody's buying this 31. They weren't buying 35 or 32. Nobody's buying. The volume is really dried up. Okay, so what you could do is if it kind of hung around from 29 to 35 over the course of weeks and months like it has, yeah, you could pick up that volume, and then you could build a bullish thesis based on that. So that's one possibility. Another possibility is this. We're petering along, break. Okay? 28, there's buyers there. There's definitely buyers there. We already know that. 25. If there's buyers at 28, there's buyers at 25. 20. Guarantee you there's buyers at 20. Okay, so what that could do, now it could go lower than 20. I don't want to sit here and say 20 is the lowest it could go. But I know there's going to be buyers there. Now, what happens when you get a break like this, a real sudden one, volume accelerates, okay? And you can get a thrust upward. So what happens is you've got to find more buyers. Buyers are lower. This is possible, but what you would want to see is you want to see accelerating volume on the up move. You want to see them, okay, we have some indecision right here. Bam, it's tightening, volatility set, because right here's a volatility event. So what you would want to see is a nice tight close on a daily or a weekly, and then you can say, okay, volatility's gone, now we're going to resolve to the upside. And this move would happen over the course of probably just a couple days. So the first move I showed you is something that would happen over the course of weeks to months. This is something that would get resolved in the course of a couple days. So that's something to keep an eye on. And that doesn't mean that it's going to go to new highs right after that. So if it does break and then moves, guess what? It's going to find resistance, and it's going to bounce off that resistance. So don't have FOMO if you didn't catch the bottom, okay? Because it's always going to find a resistance point where people, because remember, people are way up here. People are trapped up here, okay? They're trapped at 55, 50. Okay, so they're going to want out if we get some action. So just keep that in mind. Don't have FOMO over that. This is Bitcoin, by the way. But the same goes for the other tokens. That principle applies broadly. All right. Now the last thing I want to leave you on is, although crypto is definitely in a bearish trend, there is some relative strength out there. So the first one I want to call out is Comp. Okay, Comp was down, I believe, Comp was down 13% last week, but it's down 13% on volume that was down 57%. Now Comp, late June, had a really nice move to the upside on big volume, accelerating volume. Okay, so when you see an up move on accelerating volume, that's a bullish signal, okay? Now, Comp is down 13%, but it's down 57% week over week, the volume is. Okay, so what this is telling me is the selling might be done. Plus, it's getting close to a short-term trend line, which if it were to bounce right there, that would be a really nice development for Comp specifically, but then also, in the crypto market more broadly. Number 2, Aave. Okay, Aave was down only 5%. Aave was only down 5% last week. Now, it didn't have quite the up move Comp had, I don't think, but it was down 5%. Volume down 52% week over week, which again, this means that the sellers didn't chase it. The sellers didn't chase it down. Okay, which tells me the buyers could be getting control here soon. So again, those are 2 to watch. Number 3 is Sushi. So Sushi's down 12% week over week, but the volume down 46%. Again, so all these, I want to be very clear. This does not mean these guys are in a bullish trend. Okay, so they didn't make new lows, which is positive, and all of these saw previous up moves on accelerating volume. Okay, Bitcoin didn't see that, Ethereum didn't see that, a lot of these other guys didn't see that. Okay, but these guys did have up moves on accelerating volume previously. Then they had down moves on decelerating volume. So what that tells me is these could be getting close to getting resolved, and these are probably the ones that are going to lead you out. Okay, if we're gonna go to something bullish, these are probably the 3 that are going to lead you out. A couple that looked at least decent was Cardano. Didn't really move a whole lot. Solana looks good, and then Uniswap looks pretty good too. Relatively good. Just I want to temper your expectations there. I appreciate your time, and I'll see you next week.